attack it. And I know this is going to be super positive. Everybody's super positive on day one, but I really feel like not just the full-time coaches, but our support staff, our young coaches, the recruiting staff, operationally, man, like 8 months in, I'm so confident right now we got the right group of men and women to lead our program. Beyond excited about going to work with these guys. I walked in this morning, went downstairs in the weight room, went down to the training room, and just reminded everybody it's actually time for football. It's been a long 8 months. And everybody was as excited as I was, or at least close to it, so I'll take it. The second part coming in was obviously attacking the roster. Man, I don't know if you're always going to be 100%, but I feel like we filled as many gaps as we could through the recruiting process. The first part of that was evaluation. We went out and really kept an open mind through spring, gave a bunch of guys a bunch of opportunities, felt like we left spring. I know the question was, man, are you guys going to attack the portal? We certainly felt like we had to. And so I feel like we fixed some things there, and at least created competition at a lot of other spots. So 38 new scholarship guys, 49 new players in general, including walk-ons. Just about everybody's here. We're going to have one more addition here at the end of the week. Just a young man that's trying to finish up, graduate, so he can be here, that we're really confident about. So felt like we attacked it. Now, a bunch of new bodies doesn't make you better. A bunch of new bodies means there's a bunch of new bodies that we got to figure out where they can help us. So those two things. And then the third part is that of winning, meaning the way we work, the way we handle adversity, the way we attack the culture within our locker room, how we treat each other, simply how we wake up, how we eat, how we sleep, how we hydrate, the fact that everything matters. Man, I think we carved a huge chunk out of a deficit that I felt like I walked into. I feel like we've got a long, long way to go, and we're heading in the right direction. The key to the next, essentially 15 practices, the next 19 days is, can we continue to come together? Can we actually handle adversity? That's the one thing that you have no idea. You give them the tools. You give our staff the tools, you give the young guys the tools that they need to actually be able to go handle adversity. Until you face it, you got no idea. So we're going to make it hard. We're going to go through some hard here through fall camp. We're going to find a balance of hard and doing everything we can to stay healthy. But we got to be in the heat. We got to go hit. We got to block. We got to tackle. We got to go make plays on both sides of the ball. We're going to be really smart with how we do it. We're going to use the science we have to make sure we're being as smart as imaginably possible. But at the end of the day, can we handle adversity? I think it'll be interesting to see how that goes. They've got the tools they need, but we as adults sometimes can't handle adversity. We're going to ask 18 to 22-year-olds to go smash it in the face. So the coolest part is you get to go line up and do it. It's not on Twitter. It's not on Instagram anymore. We got to go do it. So it'll be absolutely exciting. I think the one giant shift, if there's a moral victory in any of it, I think when we got here in December, there was very much of an attitude of we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this. I think the shift amongst the players has been, I get to do this now. We get to go work as a team towards whatever the goal actually is. The biggest thing, as we've set forward, and I'm sure the question will be, what does success look like in year one? I imagine, Matt, you were probably going to ask that. But to me, the way you define success is the ability to actually handle adversity. Adversity could come in the form of success. Adversity could come in the form of failure. But how do we handle all of it, right? Where I stay up at night thinking is, man, it goes really well. How do we handle it? It goes really bad. How do we handle it? And knowing that we are still 8 months into laying a foundation for what the standard is here as a program, which is to win championships and compete for championships at a really high level. Foundation, 8 months in, I feel like is strong. The next month has got to make that stronger for us to be able to have a chance to have success. The cool part is we find out really early in the season if we're any good or not, and then how we handle that is going to be the second question to it. So I feel like we're in a really, really, really good spot. I feel like there's going to be competition across the board everywhere. And the question, I think, for you guys, the question for us certainly in there is who our quarterback is going to be. I think that'll be really fun to see. We've got some guys that we feel really confident about, and I'm really curious to see how it shakes. There's elite competition at running back. There's really good competition at tight end. There's really good competition on the O-line. And there's as much competition as you've ever seen at wideout. I'm really excited to see us healthy, go attack that wideout room, because I think the additions we've made are going to make us either really, really good or really, really average. But I feel like we've got the right pieces there. Defensively, there's a bunch of new guys in there on the D-line. I feel really good on the edges on the D-line. I'm really curious to see how the interior of that competition works out. That's a spot we got to get better at, and I think everybody's well aware of that. Linebacker, I feel like there's so much competition there right now. It'll be fun to see that play out. And then in the back end, we've added some pieces. We've got some pieces back healthy. You guys heard from a couple of those guys today. I'm really curious to see how it shakes out. How do we get our best five on the field? And that could be a combination of a million different things. I think the one thing T.O. does a really good job of is packaging defense to where there's probably going to be 15 or 16 guys that feel like they're starters. I feel like we have somewhere around there that I feel comfortable with going into the year. Now, how do those guys package out to match up as we go get ready for Western Kentucky here week 1? So competition everywhere. Kicker, it'll be interesting to see how we leave that. Punter, how we leave that. And then we got a freshman long snapper that we'll see if he's ready to go or not. That's going to compete as well. So, like, not coach talk, not cliche talk. I really feel like there's competition everywhere across the board. I feel like it'll be really, really fun to see that play out. We'll go 7 days of practice. We'll scrimmage on the 8th. Right now over at Southeastern University to get on a college field with a press box, probably more for us as coaches than anybody else, to be able to operate like a game day. And then we'll practice 3 more days. We'll scrimmage again on practice 12. And I feel like at that point we'll have a really good idea of at least who the bodies are, where we're going, and what we look like offensively and defensively. And then we'll have a mock game week, getting ready for Western Kentucky, and then we'll get into a game week as we go. For these first 15 days with our kids, the focus is all on us. We'll not talk about Western in any way, shape, or form. Us as coaches spent some time in June getting ready in terms of having a base game plan for how we want to attack it, and then we'll have essentially just over 2 weeks to prepare for them. So we're moving into the Embassy Suites tonight as a team. We'll be in there for 11 days, taking car keys, taking all distractions out. Next 11 days, ball, team, us. We got to grow up, and we got to go attack. So that's what I got. Any questions? Go. I answered them all, right?
How long can you let the quarterback competition continue before you feel you have to name a number one guy?
Yeah, I really feel like internally I'd love to know. Probably told Joel this morning I'd love to know by the end of the second scrimmage where we are. I don't think we'll name a starter, to be honest with you, simply because we don't have to and don't need to going into week 1. I think the guys competing for it are so different that I'd rather let Western try to get ready for any one of those guys. But internally, I would love to know after the second scrimmage, which would be 12. It may drag into practice 15. Shoot, it may drag into that mock game week. But I would love to know internally. Just as we get ready to game plan, you'd love to know.
Once you name a number one guy, Is he gonna be the number one guy no matter what, as long as he doesn't get injured for the whole season?
No, I think just like any other spot on the team, you got to go play. It's so different, especially at that spot. They're in a red jersey. You can't touch them. I don't know that you really know until you know. I went through it at the previous place where I thought I knew and I was wrong. So I'm humble enough to admit that too. But I think like every single spot, you're going to get evaluated every single day. The quarterback spot's a little bit unique because game plan-wise things change. But I could see us playing multiple quarterbacks in a game. Like there's some young guys really at a lot of spots where I could see us packaging things for multiple guys.
You don't necessarily feel that the quarterback has to be the one guy everybody revolves around, so there has to be one guy?
I think it certainly helps. I think the quarterback has to be the leader in a lot of facets, but I also think until the quarterback wins any games, it's really hard to say that he's the leader as well, if that makes sense. You got to build equity. That spot is on display every single snap, so it's a little bit unique, but I don't think that it has to be one guy. I really don't.
You mentioned you had 38 scholarship players through your whole coaching career. It's been more of a stable depth chart, guys coming back, and it's true for not only here but everywhere. What is this like, this new world of 38 new scholarship players, 49 new players, and making this work?
Yeah, I think it's been a ginormous puzzle piece of, it is a talent acquisition game, but the culture within the locker room is so critical. It's different than the NFL. I think the easy comparison is it's the NFL. Well, yes and no. Those guys are grown men that are pros that are providing for their family. This is still college-aged young guys that are still trying to figure out who the heck they are. So it's a ginormous puzzle because it's not so much talent acquisition, it's character acquisition, it's locker room fit. The unique thing, and I told our staff this almost every day as we talk through recruiting, that you recruit your own problems, you recruit talent, but you recruit your own problems. And every single young guy that we've brought in here, we're saying we're stamping them, right? I've told this entire team, you're all our guys because I chose to come here, we chose to come here, you guys chose to stay. So you're our guys, we're your guys. But every single person we bring into the program, we're stamping and saying this guy is one of us too. So I've been probably overly cautious in recruiting, specifically with the portal guys, that they better fit our culture. They better fit what we're saying is important. If being who you say you are is really important, then gosh darn it, those guys better be that. Like, they better fit what we're saying. So it's been like a giant puzzle of making these guys fit both the needs we have and then making sure that they fit from a character standpoint. So it's been fascinating. Like you're wearing a lot of hats, but like the GM hat is an interesting one.
Coach, 2 questions. 2 years ago at Tennessee, you're 7-6 coming off a bowl loss. Yet you turn it around the following year, 11-2. Are you seeing any similarities between what went on there and what could go on here?
Welcome back, by the way. It's great to have you back. Heard a lot of good and bad things, but it's awesome to have you back. You know what? I really feel like every team is so different. I felt like those 2 teams were different. I think every team individually presents its own challenges. I think I could probably answer that after. When you're in the middle of it, when you're in the middle of the process of building and the process of preparing, I don't know that you can compare a team to another team. You compare experiences, you compare where you're going. But again, like I think that'll be a better question certainly in December, but maybe even in a month. Like, I want some hard stuff to happen, and I want to see how they handle it. I want to see how we handle it as coaches. You know what I mean? I want to – it's really hard. Like, everything's pretty good right now. It's all controlled. How they've worked out our OTA workouts, it's all been controlled. Rep counts, GPSs, like everything is so controlled. What's cool about football is coaches got to get the heck off the field at some point, and then there's 22 dudes, and they go, right? Like, so I don't know. We'll find out, but I think the building of a program and laying a foundation of a program as you go from place to place, and I've been fortunate enough to be around some really cool programs that for whatever reason when I walked in as part of a staff were not very good. And when I walked in here, we weren't very good or any good. Matter of fact, we stunk. But it's also like why I wanted the job was because there's a structure and a foundation and a support to actually go win. And so I'm encouraged. I was encouraged, I guess it was 2.5 years ago there, but it was like all the same questions where it's like you had no idea if you were going to be any good. You're coming off a 3-win team. We had whatever it was, 65 scholarship players. Everybody said our best players all left. Man, maybe it is exactly the same. But I'll take those 118 guys we're going to start in camp with tomorrow because of the way they fought through up until this point and because of the way they've responded to our staff and they've responded to our accountability demands and they've responded to the workload, I'll take those guys and go to work. Like, I am really excited to go to work with this group. There's a million questions. I have no idea how it's going to go, but I'm super confident that we've got the right people in place from the player side and the coach's side to go. How they handle the tough will define what we look like as a team.
Coach, the past 2 years here at USF, the football god of injury has not smiled on them. There's been a plethora of injuries in some key positions. Is there anything you can do to try to change that, or is this just it happens?
Yeah, I think there's some injuries that are what we call freak injuries, right? Like, it happens. You land a funny way, somebody lands on top of you, can't fix it. Somebody gets rolled up, can't fix it. I think the soft tissue stuff, I'm going to phrase this the best I can without jinxing myself, the football gods, whoever's controlling them, right? But I think the soft tissue things, the things that you can be really smart about from a workload standpoint, player load standpoint, monitoring of high-speed distances, monitoring the actual load, you could be really, really smart about. You know, our guys are wearing GPSs. We have a director of sports and applied sciences that's his expertise, that every single day we're talking through what the player load should be, could be, is. They've got free reign to pull guys from practice. Our coaches are well aware of what those guys' player load should be, the way practice is structured in terms of the way it's blocked off, how we build up within a practice to then go down, to then go up, to then go back down. Everything is structured scientifically to the best of my ability. So there's a lot of science that goes into it. So you're trying to take a lot of the luck or football gods out of it, but there's still going to be freak things that happen. We're going to try to control to the best of our ability the stuff that we can control, which is what the last 8 months have looked like with our strength staff, and then the science that goes into how we actually practice.
Alex, you've got 5th and 6th year guys who've been through a lot of position coaches, a lot of coordinators. How do you earn the trust of those guys who have every right to be cynical, like Donovan, Jason Vaughn, those guys?
Yeah, there's a lot of them, and then there's a bunch of guys that left the situation they were in to come here too. There's really only one way: do what you say you're going to do. Build trust. No different than, I think, a relationship outside of here, whether it's my wife or my kids or you, any relationship. I think if you start on a clean slate, which is what I've asked every single one of them to do, give me a shot. Give our staff a shot. Me, us as a staff, do what the heck you said you were going to do. If you say you're going to do something for the kid, do it. If you say this is our standard, hold them to that standard. Just do what you say you're going to do. At the end of the day, that's all young people want is structure, accountability, and a real authentic relationship. That's not scripted. That's not, thought through prior to. Just be who you say you are. Handle each situation accordingly, and handle each situation with each young person with their best interest in mind. I think every morning, and I've said this before, but I wake up, and in 8 months, if I've learned being a head coach is a series of decisions. And the only difference between sitting as a coordinator and making decisions and sitting as a head coach and making decisions is just that there's a wider audience that will sit there and either A, co-sign it or critique the heck out of it, right? So how do you make each decision? Well, literally, when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, every decision I'm going to make is be for the best interest of our kids. That's it. Not me, not our coaches, in some ways not USF, like our kids. That's it. Like, I'm going to fight for our kids. I'm going to have their back. And some of the decisions are really, really hard. Like, really, really hard. Like, make every decision for the best interest of the kids. And sometimes that means one's got to go for the best interest of the other 117. But sometimes we got to bring one in for the best interest of the 117. But just make every decision with their best interest in heart. And if you do that, they have no choice but to at least respect it. They don't have to agree with it, but they got to respect it. And so every single situation is different, but every single decision that I try to make, that we try to make, is with their best interests at heart, therefore earning their trust.
Alex, you guys have made a lot of strides kind of the talent acquisition part, be that in the portal, and as we sit here today, the number one class in the American, that will change obviously, but
Why will that change?
well, people will commit and decommit.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Is what I'm listening.
Could it get only better?
It could. Fluctuate.
I know.
You get my point.
I do.
Don't get the fans mad at me anymore. My question though was, what do you kind of attribute that to? What do you think is kind of working in terms of what you guys are able to have been selling?
You're good.
I got you so upset you broke the podium.
No, I'm not upset at all. You're good. Thank you, Brian. Can you ask that one more time?
What's working on the recruiting trail?
Yeah. You know what? I think two things. One, the ability to be organized and on the same page as a staff. The one thing that we're going to do, that we've done for the first 8 months, is work harder than anybody in the country at this recruiting thing. I think work, I've said this a million times, but work, there's no substitute for when it comes to recruiting. Like, you can still outwork people in recruiting. You can work just a little bit harder to establish a relationship. You can work just a little bit harder to figure out exactly who's helping that young man make a decision and establish a relationship there. You can write one more letter. You can send one more text. You can make one more FaceTime call. You can work harder than somebody else. The old adage of it's like shaving, if you don't do it, it shows. Like, wake up and recruit your butts off. As a staff, that's everybody. That's me, that's our coordinators, that's our assistants, that's the young coaches, that's the strength coach, the trainers, certainly the recruiting staff. I don't care. Everybody recruits. They walk into any one of our facilities, everybody's recruiting. That's the most important part in the talent acquisition part, is the work of it. The second part of it is we have a lot to sell. Like, it's certainly a little bit easier when you're a new staff because you're selling a vision more than anything else. But right now, what we're doing as a program, what we're doing as a university, the resources, like that stuff is real. Like, everybody says, man, like, what's the impact of the indoor? What's the impact of the stadium? What's the impact of the football facility? Like, right now, practicality-wise, having an indoor certainly helps. but it shows that there's a commitment from the top, from MK and his staff to our board. Like, there's an actual commitment. The stadium, at least right now, like, is literally just a commitment to going and taking the next step as a program. However you look at it, however you spin the story, whether it's, man, we're behind or we are just 26 years into our evolution as a program, and right now it's that time where we're building a stadium. But it shows a commitment. I think when you put that commitment on top of them giving us the resources to go hire a real staff with real people, with real resources to then go recruit, all of that combined, the relationship, the work, and then the fact that you're actually showing real, like, tangible things that you can sell. And I mentioned facilities, but like, what, I don't know if it gets talked about enough. I know the AAU thing is big, but this is a top 45 public school in the country in Tampa, and one of the biggest media markets in the country. Like, life after football is a huge deal. Like, I've really, the 8 months I've been here and how many alums I've met, like every NFL player I meet that lives here maybe didn't go here. I'm like, why do you live here? Like, well, this is the best place in the country to live. Like, it's genuine, you know, in terms of like, this is where we want to live. The food scene, the music scene, the beaches, the ability to get places from an airport to major airport. Like, it's an awesome place to live. I've told almost every single young guy that sat in my office, like, there's a really good chance that if you come here, you're going to live here. Like, when you're done, you go play in the league, whatever you do, but your career is going to be here, which is true. I've worked at quite a few places where, like, it's hard to tell a kid you're coming back to, I'm not going to name a place, but you're going to live here, because you knew they weren't going to. And so, like, you combine all of that, it hasn't, I don't want to say it's been easy, but it's been not that crazy. Like, you're selling all of that.
Coach, I'm assuming, and I know that's a bad thing to do, that you've talked to other head coaches. What's the best piece of advice one of them gave to you?
Don't change. Trust what got you there. Be yourself. I've gotten that a lot, and I would say that's been stuck with me on that part of it. Just be who you say you are.
Did you get pushback when you announced to the guys taking the keys, taking the cell phones for 2023? That's kind of like an old school training camp.
I'm not taking their cell phones. That'd be jacked up because their calendars are on their cell phones. That'd be an easy excuse. Coach Orlando might take the defensive guy's cell phones, but he's really old school. No pushback. I think they're really excited. Like, the advantage to taking this program over is we never talk about, man, like, it's been done like this, so we're going to do it like this. Like, never refer back to anything previous. We learn from history, but we never point a finger. But what makes it easy is when you say, man, we're going to change something that's been done before. Well, what was done didn't work. So there's not like a pushback. Now, at the same time, us as coaches, like, the biggest part of every time we do something different, we give them a why. We never say, hey, this is what we're doing, shut your mouth and do it. You know, there's always a why. We're moving into the hotel to take the distractions out, to take any excuse you might have for, I got a flat tire, to my girlfriend needs me to run to the grocery store for her, to, like, take all that stuff, life, out. Give me 11 days of ball, teammates, us together, that's it. There's still life that happens outside of here, but, like, you got a bus that'll take you everywhere. It's between here and the embassy suites, and so that's it. Just take the distractions out. I think the fact that in the NFL, majority of the teams do that, I think it's probably an easier selling point, but explaining to them why we're doing it more than anything. And we've done that with everything, because if you talk about what's changed, the young guys want to know why. We used to do it because they told us to. Those times have changed.
Coach, you talked about OTAs. How did they go, and what's the overall health of the team heading into camp?
Yeah, we used every imaginable minute of the time the NCAA allows us. Like we poured as much into these guys as we could in terms of being able to be on the field with them. That was a really cool change a couple years ago from the NCAA. We've tried to make it like another spring ball. We needed it because of all the new guys that came after spring. You needed from a mental side, like more than anything, the mental side of it. We needed. I thought it went really, really well. The kids were all in, bought in. It was exciting. Health of the team, we got really two guys that are going to be out all of camp. Keyshawn Singleton at wideout, lower body deal that he had to deal with coming in from high school. Javon Thomas got hurt in the spring with a lower body deal. He'll be back at some point towards the end of the season. Keyshawn, we hope, will be back towards the beginning of the season. Those two guys will be out. And then offensive lineman Drew Cornelius will be out the first probably half of camp towards most of the camp with a lower body deal too. So really just three guys that are out for camp. Other than that, we're healthy and we're rocking and rolling.
Coach, the eve of your first preseason camp as a college head coach, how are you feeling? Excited, nervous, all the above?
Prepared. I was laying in bed this morning, woke up with no alarm, which was kind of exciting, prepared, ready, just excited maybe a little bit, but just ready. I'm so focused on what today was. I'm like, man, I got this 11 o'clock thing. Do I chew gum? Do I wear flip-flops? What do I do? That was the next thing I had going. That was a joke. Just prepared, just ready to rock and roll. I think confidence comes from being prepared. I feel like we're prepared. We've gone over it a million times. The OTAs helped in that regard schematically. Just prepared, ready, and ready to attack things as they come. I'm sure there'll be issues. Go smash them in the face.
One more for Coach, and we'll get Orlando up. Coach.
What's it been like facilitating some of the bonds that have formed on this new team?
Can you ask that one more time?
What's it been like, new faces on the team and things like that? So, what's it been like seeing some of the bonds formed on this team?
Coolest part of college football, is that the relationships, the watching guys grow up, watching older guys take younger guys. We established a brotherhood program this summer where, because they're not old guys, young guys anymore, they're just new guys and guys that are here because of the transfers, but have put a lot on the older brothers to take care of the younger guys, show them how we do things, what the standard is. It's been really cool. That's my favorite part of coaching is seeing guys develop relationships together, developing relationships with guys. I think it's the best part of coaching. College, high school, I don't think it matters, but watching guys' bonds come together, watching trust levels grow, been really cool.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you guys.
How we doing? Good? Football season, love it. The kids have been doing a really good job. I think Gio and his staff, they look ready. They look in shape. Like Coach talked about beforehand, a little opportunity to work with them a little bit. And I'm excited to find out how much we can retain. We've only, it's been about 3 months since you last saw us, and that's probably the excitement than anything else is to see can we pick up where we left off, and then can we keep moving forward. So with that, I'll answer questions.
I got a couple questions. The first one, I'm going to ask Joe the same thing. The rule change of not stopping the clock after the first down.
Yeah.
Advantage offense, advantage defense, or neither?
I think it'll end up being less plays, so it might be us. So but I'm sure they'll find a way to make it just as fast and get their plays in. So, I mean, it's from that standpoint, I think that's what they're trying to control, that they're trying to make these games like realistic. And I think they're, in essence, like they're making changes based on what's going on in the actual game itself, too. I think they realize that. But I think it'll end up shortening the amount of plays that they get. But if, like I said, hopefully our offense scores as fast as humanly possible, so it won't matter. But I think it might be a slight advantage to the defense.
The way the game's set up with the white hash marks, you go 3-by-1 to the field, it's creating zones just by the way they stretch the field. Watching Tennessee last year, they had a wide receiver 5 yards, wide receiver 5 yards. You're so stretched out. How do you defend that?
Well, you got to match athlete for athlete. That's what it forces you to do. It forces you, anytime you can get somebody in space, and then you got to stay fast around the whole defense. I think that's probably the biggest thing that's changed football-wise. I think if you said what was the ideal middle linebacker, he would be 245, 250 pounds, a thumper that can stop the run, and really even up front at the edges. But then I think you found out exactly what you say. Like, realistically, it's really hard versus a really good player to tackle those guys one-on-one in space. I mean, the percentages are so low, but if you can add one more person that's, 2 or 3 yards close to the guy that gets the ball, the percentages like skyrocket. So that's the real change with it. I think they found something that in essence turned into just, hey, get a guy a ball, let him work in space, and then I think it took off. Then the thing about going really, really fast is how much do you do against it? Because when you're trying to relay calls in and people are trying to communicate when things are going really, really fast, sometimes you screw that up too. But I think universally in kind of the football defensive community, it's been to get faster, just because you can't battle that. If somebody has the ball when you're expecting one person to tackle him and he's all by himself because you can't have enough speed to run to it, that's what really strains you.
Any other questions, Coach? Coach, how much of the defense did you get installed during the spring?
All of it, with the exception of some of the things that we would do versus like goal line, like bigger body personnel groupings, just because it was hard for us to manufacture it offensively. But outside of that, everything was in. So that's the exciting part about this. What you got to understand is when you come here, it's like, all right, you start to, and you know this, you're learning something new. You're going out in the field and you're more or less worried about the scheme, and you're supposed to line up here, you're supposed to do this. And then you're trying to battle at the end of the day, it's the fundamentals and techniques that go along with the actual play itself that create the success. But when you don't have time to coach that because you're so worried about scheme, sometimes that falters. So going into tomorrow's practice, this will be install number 1 for us. But these guys, I'd be really, really disappointed if these guys weren't incredibly sharp tomorrow. Like, it would break my heart to see everybody, at least in the first and second group of those guys, not being lined up exactly where they're supposed to be. And now what we can do is watch the tape and find out, okay, you took a bad step right there, and start to teach the things that are actually the reason why you make a play or miss a play. So that's I think everybody in the building's fired up. If you ask the kids, I think they're fired up with it. But to answer your question, we've gotten everything in. Now it's time to go do it again at a higher level.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
The numbers the defense put up last year, obviously nobody wanted those.
Yeah.
The guys who are coming back, and even the new ones, do you point to that? Do you think they're motivated by not wanting to be that again? Is that even a factor for anything you're doing?
I think you can use it to an extent. Then you become numb to it. So I think we probably fired a couple shots across the bow when we first got here. You know what I'm saying? And it was more or less, it went down to was if you're a prima donna and you were on part of that defense, like really? You know what I'm saying? It's like you're not going to work hard and you are part of that. Like, this is the way that we're going to work, and this was the results. You came in and they were the 85 Bears, you could have a little bit leniency towards it, but that's probably to the extent. And we've gotten away from that because to me, when you start doing that, it's like, okay, you've taken me to this level. Why are we even talking about that? It's a waste of time. Get me to the next level and let's keep moving forward. So we did it early and then kind of squashed it from there.
Do you think they're motivated by external, I mean, just out and about, people know what they did and talk?
I would hope so.
Things they hear and
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
don't want to hear that anymore?
I would hope so. I'd be disappointed if they weren't. I think I am. Like, listen, like, coaches, we're here. I just, heard him talk about it. Like, I'm leading this, so I'm part of you. Like, when I walked in this building, this is like, he told me exactly. I was like, we do our research. We know what's up. But I also remember when this place was just, you watch them on defense, and it was, oh, man, it was fun to watch. That's what I remember. So, I mean, we all take responsibility for it. But the cool part about this, and this is what I'm going to talk to him about tonight, is like, you bring that up, and we'll go into this room later on, and it's just all us. It's going to be ball 24/7, and we can change it. And that's all we need. We just need the people in that building to believe. You're not going to see an end result until we line up versus Western. But right now, what we can control is not going in there and being, a space cadet in meetings. Like, you got to be locked in the meetings. You can't take a lazy step on the practice field because it's a battle against time right now. I've heard Coach talk about this when he first got here. It's like we're battling time. So everything that we do from here on out's got to be at a professional, like, elite level for us to get caught up on the things. Like, we don't have the time to go rep something 95 times and get ready for it. We're playing in 4 weeks. So lock yourself in. Let's get this stuff so we can move on to something else. But there should be a chip on your shoulder. But I think to a point where you be the best version of yourself and do your job. Let's not look around and point fingers. Like, let me go out and try to be the best defensive coordinator in the country. You go out and be the best corner in the country. You go be the best, and let's collectively bring all that stuff together and see what we got.
Here we talk about adversity. Do you think that the competition in the practice room makes a difference so that they learn how to deal with the adversity that they're going to deal with on the field?
There's only certain things that go into this game, and I think really in life, there's always going to be adversity. Like, be amazed if you sat down with somebody, how much stuff they got going on. But what you try to do to the best of your ability is to come into what you need to do at that moment and do the best job that you can do, but be in that moment. So what I mean by is, like, my day could be like ridiculously bad. I could have issues with X, Y, and Z, but when I get into a meeting room, like 11 guys that I coach at linebacker are counting on me to be the best at what I do. And then when we meet as a unit, so we always talk about that stuff. In day 10, right, from we go to fall camp, that's going to be the measurement of what we are. What I mean by that is, like, day 1 and 2, when you guys interview these guys, everybody's going to be happy. It's like, this is the greatest thing ever. And, like, come back in 2 weeks and interview the same guys when it's practice 10, 11, 12. And what does that look like for us? That's what I'm really anxious about. Like, I'm going to tell the guys this tonight. It's like, what do we look like? Like, or tomorrow when we line up, we'll look like a 9 or 10. I'm talking about juice level. I'm talking about flying around, having a blast. But what will it look like? Because it's all relative. Everybody in the country is doing the same thing that we're doing. Will it look like a 7 or will it look like a 2? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that to me tells you what we're going to be. Because what will end up happening with that, if it looks like a 7 or 8, that means we've got good leadership. Because a coach can only take you so much. Like, if you're with your peers and you're working hard, it's your peers that pick you up. Like, come on, man, we got this. We're really, really close. So you get that leadership part of it. When it's a 2 or 1, it's everybody wants to tap out, and everybody's questioning everything. And that's what fall camp's about, really, in essence. If you've gone through one beforehand, if you've seen it, that's a true measurement of a team, because a lot of the stuff is player-driven. And when the players are on point, when the players look at it and say, you know what, the expectations of actually winning is way up here, and, like, we can get there, I'm telling you, it's not that hard, then we'll have something.
Does the way offenses play in college football in what I mean is, there was a time when, hey, you hold them under 300 yards.
Yeah.
And now it's stuff like, man, we stopped them twice. That was a good defensive.
Yeah, it has a little bit. The total yardage to me is completely out of play nowadays. Points is still relevant. Tight red zone stops for 3 points. I think that's the one thing that you can really hang your hat on. But the complementary football, trying to be explosive on our side, like TFL sacks, turnovers. Because the way that you got to think about it is if we're going to go out there and we're going to attack the heck out of people with pace and speed, boy, then if you can score and then all of a sudden you come out on defense and you can create an explosive play, a turnover, something like that, and put them right back on the field, boy, you can get a defense on the death row if they don't have the opportunity to go back and relax and rest and get their legs underneath them. But the yardage, that to me is out the window. Points are still, but turnovers, like that's what we're finding out right now. Big studies off of it, but if you can get +2 in the turnover battle, you can win a whole bunch of ball games, especially if you're explosive on offense.
Any more questions, guys? All right, thank you, Coach. Thank you, Coach.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Offensive coordinator, Joe Gordon.
What's up, guys? Doing good. How about you guys?
Joe, I'll ask you 2 questions. One, when you come here and you see the rules change, where they're not going to stop the clock after the first downs anymore, advantage offense, advantage defense, or neither?
I don't think there's an advantage either way. I think people will adapt. We haven't put a ton of thought into it right now, so I don't think it's going to affect us too much.
The way the game's set up now, and again, watching Tennessee last year, they had a receiver at one side, spread defenses out. It's hard to keep a team under 30 points. Do you go into the game thinking we better get 30 because it's going to be hard for us to stop them?
Yeah, I don't go into a game thinking our defense isn't going to be able to hold up and play good defense. Naturally, we want to score points and put ourselves in a really good situation to be competitive with every team that we're going to play. But, yeah, the game has definitely changed. You're seeing probably more teams that are able to put up points than maybe different times in history. But I don't think me personally, we're gonna play our offense how we want to play it. We're going to trust that our defense can go out there and play good defense and try to win football games as a team.
So you're the offensive coordinator. That's your title now.
It is.
What does that mean in terms of has anything changed in the way you approach what you're doing with the offense?
No, not really. Really, it's an honor to have that position here, and I'm fired up about it and excited about it, but probably digs a little deeper at me, to lead, not just our players, but, lead our coaches. We got a really good group of coaches, and to understand that my job is to find ways to make us the best that we can be, not just scoring points. How can we be the best teachers? How can we be the best role models for our players? How can we keep pushing this program forward? So, maybe the responsibility, does hit a little bit different, when you have that, title by your name now. But have always tried to be a really good team player, as a coach, and, just really taking it like that.
What are your expectations for Naquan this season?
Hopefully he has a great year. He's talented. He's got experience, which we don't have that at every position, and not everybody at that position has experience, alone. So we're hoping he could be a leader and be a really good player for us, be a really good teammate in the locker room, and, you know, be a focal point of this offense without a doubt.
Alex has said there's competition everywhere. He's made that clear. To you, how important is it to determine that starting quarterback as early as possible, just to give them the requisite first-team reps?
It's not the priority going into it that we have to name a starter by this day or this scrimmage. Man, if we were walking in here and we knew who it was going to be already, that would obviously, you know, give you an opportunity to maybe feel a little bit better about that. But at the same time, maybe that room's not working as hard, you know, as a whole to keep pushing themselves and to raise their games, you know, every single day, which I think how we practiced in the spring and how we left it after the spring through the summer, you know, those guys, I think, have been excited to learn, excited to work because they, you know, it's not they think, you know, they're going to have an opportunity to compete. And we're not going to rush to judgment. You know, we're going to let those guys play and let the chips fall where they fall. And I think we'll know when we know. And if it's after 2 weeks, it is. If it's not, it's not. And we're going to have to keep on letting it ride out.
How much of the offense were you able to get installed during the spring?
Probably, if I had to put a percentage on it, maybe 80%, 85%. You know, there's some situational type things that we didn't get to, but we got a healthy chunk put in, and there's probably still some things in the offense that we haven't even brought up yet. It'll be, you know, as those situations, or man, maybe this player's really good at doing this. You know, maybe there's some things that I don't even know about right now that we'll install and we'll learn about as we get into the season. But the nuts and bolts, we felt really good about getting installed in the spring, and, you know, we tried to put the players in a situation where they could lead themselves throughout the summer, you know, with those things, and try to get really good at, you know, those things that they knew from the spring.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how the play calling will work, and are you and Coach Golesh birds of a feather in terms of the way you look at offense and what you guys value?
I think we are the same in what we value. You know, we value offenses that can run the football, can throw the football, be explosive and efficient, and score points. How the play calling will go, I can't answer that right now. You know, Coach Golesh is coming off of, man, a tremendous, you know, couple years, you know, in this offense. So, you know, I don't see my, you know, just because my name has offensive coordinator beside it, that's not like the end-all be-all that, you know, I'm calling the plays or whatever it is. We have a really good offensive staff, all the way down to the graduate assistants, and we'll be in this thing together. And whatever that looks like, we'll figure it out along the way. And, yeah, that's the best I could give you right now.
And Coach Golesh was saying earlier, and he's even back in the spring, he talked with a lot of excitement about the receivers, just all the different pieces you have. And haven't figured out who goes where yet, but what's your read on the talent level that you've got at that position?
Yeah, I think we're going to find out. You know, a lot of the guys that we had in the spring didn't finish the spring. You know, we had a lot of guys get banged up, which was hard for them. It was hard for us as coaches to be able to evaluate them. And, you know, the strength staff has been around those guys more than anybody for the last, you know, 2 months. So I'm excited that we can play football. We do have some new faces that got added into that mix as well. And it's what you need. You want guys that want to be here to compete and you know, try to push this team forward. But I'm excited for that group because there are guys that maybe, man, we know about a little bit more as coaches than you guys do, but I'm sure there's going to be surprises for us too. So I think they've been working their butts off, and there's going to be some pleasant surprises in that room.
coordinator. Just in your several months on the job, what's your impression of him?
You know, he's the same guy every day, you know, when I see him. He's got a smile on his face. He brings positive energy. He's got a great work ethic, and he would be another one that I'm really excited for, you know, to be healthy again and to get going, you know, with football. Having missed the spring, this fall camp is going to be huge for him. So, you know, I see him as a guy that's really in a position to be a leader for us, and he's going to really need to be that.
These next, I think it's 11 days where the guys are in the hotel, their car keys are taken away, it's all ball. How would you express the importance of that period for developing this team?
Yeah, it's huge. There's a ton of new faces on the entire team, but there's only so much time that you get in the calendar year where it's just football and there's no school. Well, there actually is school actually right now. Some guys are still finishing up, and that'll be the case for a couple days. But yeah, it's all football. It's really important that their intent and their focus and their maturity level, they realize that opportunity, you know, because you don't get another one. You know, it's you're racing against everybody else in college football because they get the same window that we get. So the maturity level and our intent, you know, how we wake up in the morning and what we want to do with that day, it's critical. It's critical.
Any other questions for Coach? Thank you.
All right. Yep.
You guys are welcome if you want to stick around. We're going to take some team photos, some positional photos, out on the field. If you want to shoot an B-roll or you want to see the photos yourself, you're welcome to do so. Ask that you stay out of the way of our working photographers. And if you're good, I appreciate you coming today. Thanks for your 2 hours of time, Mr. Zier. Good to see you, Leo. All right. Take care. When I win the lottery now, I'll let you know when I'm